So, welcome to the second episode of Dating After Toxic Relationship. The first episode I think did pretty well. People seemed to really respond to it, got some messages about it, so that's kind of a great thing. As we know, if you've been in a toxic relationship, dating after a toxic relationship can be excruciating because it's so confusing. So, I was in a toxic relationship, I was abusive to my ex husband, and now I'm a certified relationship coach and I'm helping people walk through the process of dating after a toxic relationship. I myself am doing the same thing, so it's really an exciting sort of adventure for me to date and learn different things and then to share it with everyone else. So, on last week's episode, I talked about how to know if you're ready to date after a toxic relationship. And on today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between a flaw and red flags and like what that difference is and how to kind of spot the red flags. So after you start dating after a toxic relationship, whoever you go out with, regardless of who they are, you're going to overthink. You're going to have your eyes open, your ears open, and you're going to be on the hunt for those red flags. You're going to think his blue shoes are a red flag because your ex once wore blue shoes and oh my god, he's the same person. And that's not necessarily the case. What I'm finding the difference is with the red flags and the flaws is the red flag is usually, jealousy, opening up too soon, constant contact, a question asker. If the guy you're dating or the girl you're dating is a question asker in a negative way, where you're going, who you're going with, when you're coming home, those are the things you really need to look out for. So because the guy that you're dating or the girl that you're dating says the same sort of like catchphrases or whatever as your ex, doesn't necessarily mean that they're like the same person at all. But after dating someone toxic, we tend to pick up on the little things. Then we start overthinking, and then we're like, what if we're making the same mistakes? What if it's going to happen again? So some flaws to be able to like see the differences. Like if a guy that you're dating, he isn't someone who likes to talk on the phone. That doesn't mean he doesn't want to talk to you because he's hiding something or because he's with somebody else. It just might mean he's not the kind of guy to talk on the phone. If he doesn't respond fast to text messages and then your ex was doing that while he was cheating on you, it doesn't mean the same thing. So the biggest thing to be able to do when you do start dating is to know the differences and to understand the person that you're not dating is not your ex. So there's no need to put yourself through that turmoil, which you're going to do anyway because we all do. But the biggest thing to do is to realize they're not the same and to give them the benefit of the doubt. The first thing that you should do after you start dating, is take it slow. Take it slow. Don't go crazy. Don't jump into bed with someone. Don't open up and say, this was my toxic relationship and this is what this guy or this girl did to me and because that's going to kind of put a little damper on things. Opening up too much on your end isn't going to be a good thing. You need to get to know someone before you start sharing intimate details of your past, especially if you've been abused. So take it slow. Don't jump into bed with anybody. Get to know them. Get to know them naturally in their own habitat. See if they're going to be able to fit into your life the way your life is. And that doesn't mean you're not supposed to change a little bit or adjust your life for someone else, because it's perfectly normal to do. But doing it for the right person is the most important thing to learn from that. How do you know it's the right person? Time. Sometimes you think you might know fairly soon, but then in reality, you probably don't, because people come with so much baggage and people do change a little bit after you've been dating them for a little while. They get a little bit more comfortable with you. A little bit of who they are starts to seep out. So you probably noticed in your toxic relationship after about a month or so, things started to change. That's what I've heard from a lot of people. That's what happened in my own experience. It was literally day 30 and the name calling started and the real person started to like seep out just a little tiny bit. So the more time that you spend with someone, the more you really pay attention to who they are and keep your eyes open. Not like having your blinders on because they might look good or because they have like a good job. Knowing like the differences, like making sure you are with someone for the right reasons, because they have courage, because they're honest, because they're a good fit for you naturally. So you might see someone that has a great job and is great looking, and you want to keep them because you don't want to be single anymore because of whatever reason, or because you feel like they're a great catch because of the outside. Usually that's going to fail, because it doesn't matter what the person looks like on the outside. It does to a degree, but that's not the reason why you should stay with someone. You stay with someone because of how they treat you, because of how they are as a human, how their character is. So taking it slow, trying to figure out a true red flag versus something that you're overthinking about is also going to help you with that. So talking, getting to know them, asking the right questions will also help. Not asking in a interrogation kind of way, but a little bit over time. There's a meme going out there that says, first date question is, what kind of toxins are you bringing to this relationship, blah, blah. If you ask that on a first date, yeah, you're going to be single forever. Do not ask someone, what kind of baggage do you have and what are your toxins and what are you gonna project onto me, because they're gonna think you're certifiable and you probably are certifiable. So do not ask that on a first date. That's a great question. What kind of toxins do you have? What kind of baggage do you have? What kind of trauma have you been through? Those are great questions for third, fourth, fifth date. Once you figure out that there's an actual connection and you want to spend more time with this person. Because if you start asking those really deep questions so soon, you're going to scare the person off. It's pretty much the equivalent to, so I figured by the time I was 30, I'd be married and have 2 kids. What's your timeline for getting married and having kids? Oh, dude, if you ask that on a first date, yeah, no. And the person doesn't call you back, they're not ghosting you. They're like literally running away from you. They probably packed up their apartment and moved out of town, because that's an insane question to ask someone. So knowing how to talk to someone, knowing how to figure out the red flags, knowing how to pick up on different things is definitely the way to go. If you are dating someone, you've been out a few times, and you say you text him and it takes him 2 or 3 days to respond, probably not that interested. Can people be busy? Of course people can be busy, but even the busiest people have their phone attached to their hip. They're not so busy they can't respond and say, hey, I'm busy right now, I'll call you later on, or whatever. So it's also knowing like when somebody really wants to be with you, when they're making time for you, versus they're just showing up when they have the time and they're bored and they have no one else. So there's a few different ways to kind of figure out what that is, and that's of course how consistent are they. If you're dealing with someone that's not very consistent and you're picking up on it, throwing yourself into their lives even more is not going to help your cause. It's going to make them run away from you even more. So before you do start dating, like I talked about in the other episode, was making sure you're secure with yourself and who you are. So if you go on a date with a guy and you think it's great and you feel like you want to see him again, and you text him and he doesn't respond, you should be able to be at the point where you're okay with that. Be like, okay, well, I texted him, and if he doesn't respond to me, then it's his loss, it's not my loss, and you move on. So wrapping yourself up in a relationship, or the idea of a relationship, or what's going to happen with this, what's going to come of this, is going to do the exact opposite of what you really want. It's not going to pull a guy in closer. When was the last time you heard a story where the girl was like, yeah, I called him 17 times in a row, I showed up at his house, and yeah, he proposed to me the next day? Never, because that's not going to happen. No, that's not going to happen. Also, don't show up at someone's house, because that's also kind of insane. So the biggest thing is to be actually legit secure with yourself, and to know like, hey, I like this guy, I'm interested in him responding, I would like to see him again. But if he doesn't want to, that's his loss, and somebody else will, get the rewards of having me in their life. So it's making sure you're secure with it. Being able to pick up on the red flags fairly quickly. If you're sitting at a dinner and he's asking you questions about, I don't know, Facebook or whatever, and why you're friends with this person and that person, and asking you kind of questions you're not comfortable with, then you know what, I didn't really feel comfortable with this, and I'm not interested in seeing this person again. If a person is acting jealous, if a person is asking you way too many questions about yourself. One good question you can ask on a first date is, so what happened in your last relationship? And listen to that answer. Listen to it, because a toxic person, man or woman, is going to tell you how dreadful their ex was. Actually, how dreadful all of their exes were. How it was so hard to make it work. How he was crazy. How she was crazy. How it was just terrible. If you're talking to someone, they're telling you how horrible their exes are, and they're not telling you the accountability they had in the demise of their previous relationship, that's a huge red flag. You've got to make sure that when you start dating someone, they can be honest with you. They can talk to you. They can admit when they were wrong, and they can say, this was my accountability. Can't speak for my ex, but I can speak for myself, and this is what happened. My ex did X, Y, and Z, which led me to do this, and that's why we're not together anymore. So if you're on a date with someone and they're trashing their ex, that's a huge red flag. So keep your eyes open for that. Someone who's maybe making sexual advances way too soon. That's a huge red flag. Someone who brings up sex, who talks about sex on the first date. I would not tolerate that. You know, maybe if you want to finish out the date or whatever, do it, but make a mental note that this probably isn't for you. I mean, unless you're into that, then whatever, do it. But if you're not and it makes you uncomfortable, that's also a huge red flag. Anytime you feel uncomfortable, it's not good. And if you're feeling uncomfortable and you don't know why, you might not be ready to date. So try it, go out, see how you feel, see how you respond to different things, see what you can pick up on. So you can talk to people on apps, you can message and go back and forth, kind of learn a little bit more about what red flags may look like. I matched with somebody who was kind of a dick, like straight away. He was just a jerk straight away, and I wrote about him in my second book and how I had mentioned to him that I had gone to Italy, and he just jumped all over me and insulted me about whatever the heck it was that I was saying, and I was like, wow, this guy's serious right now. And he literally was like, oh, can I have your phone number? Nobody, you literally cannot have my phone number. Why? So you can call me and scream at me and call me an idiot for not knowing you play soccer? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So you got to really pay attention to the way people treat you. Pay attention to the way the person you're on a date with treats the wait staff. That's obviously a huge thing. Hear what their thoughts are on, important events, that sort of thing. Don't go asking about kids. Don't go asking about marriage. Don't do that. Just stay away from that. Just get to know the person that's sitting across from you. Get to know who they are as a human, not what value they may be able to add to your life because you're so desperate or whatever to get married or have a kid. You've got to make sure that when you do find someone that you possibly want to have kids with, that it's the right fit for you, that it's going to be the right fit for your kid. People don't really think about that. People don't think about when they're having kids, like this guy that I'm having this kid with, or this one night stand that I'm having sex with, and what if I get pregnant? I mean, is this guy going to be like a good dad? Hello, these are the things you have to really consider before you decide to jump in bed with somebody unprotected or whatever. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But paying attention to someone, taking it super slow, learning the differences between a flaw and a red flag. So just because your ex took too long to respond to you and this new person is taking too long to respond to you doesn't mean they're doing the same things. You cannot assume. You have to really let this person that you're with be who they are naturally and then see if they're a good fit for you. I've had a few situations in my own dating history where I did the same thing, where I was like, oh my gosh, he's going out with his friends, he's going to go and he's going to meet someone and he's never going to talk to me again, and all the overthinking. Of course, I never told him that, but I told my friend that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. It's okay to freak out. It is. It's okay to freak out to the right people. Don't freak out to the guy or to the girl. Ugh, don't do that. Don't say to the guy, I don't want you to go out with your friends because every time my ex went out with his friends, he cheated on me. Yeah, that guy's going to be like, yeah, see ya, I'm not interested in this. So do your freakouts to yourself, and at some point, if you feel comfortable and you feel ready to talk to him or her about your past, do that. But don't do it too soon. Don't write a book about it. Don't write a book about it because then it's out there. Good luck dating with that because that's not fun. But make sure you do it in a slow way. Take your time. Get to know the person. Get to know that this person is good enough to get to know you. Make sure this person is good enough to get to know the inside of you and like what happened to you in your past, because you don't want to open up your heart like that to just anyone. Because if you do that, then you're going to be saying the same story to every guy you go on a date with. So enjoy the person, get to know them a little bit, get to know who they are just as a human, literally like what they don't like. Make sure you listen more than you speak and make your assessments at that point. Don't make your assessments because of a blue shirt. Don't make your assessments because your ex and this new guy have the same view on politics. It doesn't make them the same person. But after a toxic relationship, we tend to like go down those roads and kind of think those same things. So make sure before you do this, you kind of know the difference between what a flaw looks like and then what a red flag looks like. A red flag is going to be jealousy, controlling, questioning. A flaw is going to be like a question like, well, I guess this isn't even a flaw. Like, I just want, when are you going to be back or whatever? I just want to make sure you're okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you're not comfortable answering that, you don't have to answer that. And if it takes you a little bit of time before you're ready to be able to answer questions like that, that's okay too. That exact same thing happened with me where I wasn't prepared to answer any kind of questions like that. The more I began to trust and the more I began to like let go a little bit, the easier it was for me to be like, hey, this is where I'm going, and I'll be probably back around this time. And it's been fine. So just, proceed, but with caution. Make sure you're really getting to know the person. Make sure you're figuring out the difference between what's an actual red flag and what is just somebody's kind of quirks before you either destroy something or don't want to date someone anymore. So that was today's second episode. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know. Be sure to follow me on social media, Kelly Smith Author, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out my book, Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. And be sure to tune in next week to episode 3.